Turn your tongue 7 times before you speak. That way you'll have time to think about the things you want to say if you ought to say. Vadi Ratner. Hello, welcome back to Halftime TV. Naranda Brown here, your host, and like always, we have an interesting topic to discuss. If you haven't done so as yet, hit that subscribe button, and also check out my sponsors, Quick Link Shipping, RS Sports Store, and CSA Shop. Link to each of their Instagram pages are located in the description below. Now let's get straight to it. Jerome Waite. Is his time with the Jamaica Football Federation and the Reggae Boy team over? We'll dissect that and more in today's show, but I need to backtrack a bit. The game against Japan under 24, I couldn't help but notice that Jerome Waite was the person on the sideline. Now news came about later after the game had been completed that Theodore Whitmore was feeling a stomach bug, and as a result he wasn't able to sit in for that game. Jerome Waite, he sat in naturally as the deputy. Now, a few days after the game was completed and the guys came back to the island, Jerome Waite did an interview with the Jamaican Observer. In the interview, he put forward some excuses as to why the team didn't do well. He also mentioned in that interview that the energy from Theodore Whitmore was missing from the team, and that the respect showed to Theodore Whitmore needs to be showed to the entire coaching staff, for lack of a better term. What that was saying is, in my opinion, that the respect or the level of respect for Theodore Whitmore was isolated, and that the rest of the staff had not received that same level of respect and appreciation. Now fast forward to a few days after, when Jerome Waite came on Football GPS on CVM TV, he mentioned that the coaching staff and the players, there is mutual respect all around. So a bit of contradiction there, but not the topic at hand today. Today I'm here to discuss the meeting that was called. It is alleged that Jerome Waite has been called into a meeting following these 2 interviews, the one with the Jamaican Observer and the one on Football GPS. The one on Football GPS has a little bit more detail because he went into some elements that you would want to keep behind closed doors. He spoke about there being miscommunication or discontent between the Football Federation and the coaching staff. I'll be specific. He said the coach needs the support of the Jamaican Football Federation, and they need to pick the team. Now, when he mentioned the coach needs to pick the team, it struck a note with me, because it is something that we've been saying all along as vloggers, that what appears in front of us is the coaches aren't picking the teams. It appears the Jamaica Football Federation, they're just going out and getting players who merely only qualify for the national setup, and when they get those players, they just stock them in, and they expect these players to do well for the national team, considering the coaches didn't want these players to begin with. All right, we bash the federation when it needs to be bashed, but I don't want folks to think it is a dictatorship where Jerome Waite isn't expected to speak his mind. He is expected to speak his mind, and he doesn't do too much interviews as I alluded to, because if you should even go on YouTube, there isn't a lot of interviews you'll see with him. But for those last 2 interviews, I can safely say some of the things that he mentioned in that interview were out of turn. I'm not sure if this is the reason why the meeting was called, but I can say conclusively that candidates were interviewed for the assistant manager post. We'll say Paul Hall was just appointed, so why is it the case then we're looking for a new assistant manager? But it does happen. A lot of teams have 2 assistant managers. Brazil, for instance, has 2 assistant managers. England doesn't have 2. Spain doesn't have 2, but they have other managers that come in different areas and suffice for that role. Also, I think Jerome Waite, he needs to assess what exactly his role is with the federation. He spoke about formation, he spoke about structure of the football, all these things he mentioned, and it takes us back to one point, because the players who went on the pitch against Japan under 24, they went out there strictly with the instructions of Theodore Whitmore. Although Jerome Waite was the one on the sideline on the day, we still need to bear in mind that the system of play is something intrinsically entrenched in the minds of these players. And regardless of the person who is on the sideline, they're going to go out there and they're going to carry out the expectations of the manager, the instructions of the manager the day before, or even on the day, because a lot of times we have the managers calling or even on the cell phone talking to the assistant coaches throughout the day. And whereas I can agree with a lot of things that Jerome Waite mentioned in his interview, it's the time and place. Speaking out of context, speaking out of turn, because if you're within a federation or an organization or whatever the case may be, you need to first consult your superiors before you go to the press. In this case, the Jamaica Football Federation. It is not a dictatorship. You're allowed to say or to do whatever, but you need to bear in mind the repercussions. In this case, the repercussions is the kickback on the Jamaica Football Federation. Now, we all know that the Jamaican Football Federation has a bad reputation for the most part. And Jerome Waite coming out and saying what he said during these two interviews, it definitely doesn't do any justice to the Federation. It doesn't put them in a good spot at all. And having done those two interviews, it only begs the question, is his time with the Jamaica Football Federation over? He's been with the Federation and with the national team for just under maybe 5 years. I think he was appointed in 2016, so just under 5 years roughly. Is it that we're going to see the end of him now? I hope not. Jerome Waite has contributed significantly to the team and the progress and the growth of the football throughout the past few years, and I would really love to see him stick around. But with the appointment of Paul Hall, maybe there isn't a need for him anymore. I asked the question as soon as Paul Hall was appointed. Is it a case where he is brought in as the long-term replacement for Theodore Whitmore, or is it a case that he was brought in to replace Jerome Waite? We still await. It appears that a conclusion has been made. It appears that they have reached a verdict. However, we are still awaiting the end result. We want to see how this culminates, but I hope for the best, and I hope for the best for the team going forward as well. Big names should take part in practice games and in training games. They shouldn't just show up when it's time for qualifiers and Gold Cup. Coach needs to pick the team. Federation not working with the coaches. All these are the sentiments shared by Jerome Waite in these two interviews. Losing games highlights frailties and lack of talent thereof. This is his viewpoint, and I can agree holistically with these pointers that he makes. But is it something he should have gone to the press with, considering the negative air around the Jamaican Football Federation? Personally, I don't think so. And as I said at the beginning, twist your tongue 7 times before you speak. That way you'll get the opportunity to think about the things you want to say, if you should in fact say it. Jerome Waite, he spoke out of turn, and this may mean the end of his tenure at the Jamaica Football Federation. Thanks for tuning in to this another video. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Noranda Brown here from HalftimeTv saying, until next time.